So we have found ourselves a wormhole. What do? We are going to get ourselves in a scanning ship. We know there's no one in local, it's only friendlies, so we're all good. This is how I'm fitting my covert ops. We definitely need the scanning probes. So we're going to need a probe launcher, we're going to need a cloak, and interdict and nullifiers always to be safe. Down here, these are all the modules. You see I've got 2 rangefinders and a couple of rigs that help the scan strength. The scan strength comes out as 135 points, which is quite high, and I've got no implants either. You can get implants to actually assist you with scanning, but this is just an empty clone I'm using. So we're going to launch our probes, and we can see here we've got 8 probes. We're going to set our radius to 8 AU, and we are going to open the solar system map. Now we will double click on this to center in our screen, or we could just double click on the screen there as well. I'm not going to teach you guys how to scan them, you should know that already, but you basically get your square horizontally, you get your square vertically. That will give you the position right in the center. Anytime it's an X, we're going to scan at 8 AU. Anytime it is a dot or a anomaly that we recognize, we're going to scan at 2. So here, moving back down to 2 because it's a red dot, centering vertically, centering horizontally, and we are going to scan again. So we press analyze, or we can press the B key. The B key is the shortcut. Now we can see that someone's already scanned this down and bookmarked it, but it's not the standard way to bookmark wormholes. The naming convention is very important, and I'll show you why, and I'll explain to you why the naming convention is so important later on. So we can see this is a wormhole. We know it's a wormhole because someone's already discovered and bookmarked it for us anyway, but we're going to scan that. So from 2 AU, the next step down is 0.5 AU. When we've got that, we will warp to the hull. We can pull in our probes. We don't need those anymore, and the reason we pull in our probes is, especially if we're already in a wormhole scanning, as soon as you're finished with the probes, pull them in so people don't realize that there's someone in there scanning. If you're cloaked, they can't see you anyway, but give them the least amount of information as possible. So here we're going to bookmark this correctly. We're going to save location. This is always going to be the 2. The first one was always going to be the 2. I'll explain this in a minute. And we are going to then find out what the signature is. The signature is ICQ. So we'll put ICQ. Now, how do we know what kind of wormhole this is? Is it a C1, C2, C3, 4, 5, 6 even? We can look here, and it says it's a K702. And it leads to unknown space. Now, unknown space is a C1, 2, or 3. So we can say C1, 2, or 3, don't know. Let's just put it down as maybe, I don't know. We put it as a C2 for now, or a C1 even, I don't know. Maybe we just leave it as a C2. Let's pretend we don't know what it is. Now, a couple of things to notice here. The wormhole is beginning to decay, has not yet had its stability significantly disrupted, and larger ships can pass through. Larger ships is the default, and I will explain that later. And you can see it's an X702. When we start mapping this in Pathfinder, this will all start to come into play. So let's go into the wormhole. We've already bookmarked it there. It's always going to be 2 days with wormholes because wormholes don't last longer than 2 days. So don't book it forever, because then you're going to have a whole bunch of signatures and bookmarks that you don't know what they're for. And they're not going to be relevant anyway. So one thing to show here, look at our mass, 1.2 million, right? If we turn our micro warp drive on and then look at our mass again, you can see that our mass is now 1.7 million. So wormholes the stability of wormholes is based on mass, and how to jump through wormholes and how to close wormholes is by putting a lot of mass through it, and they will become unstable and they will collapse. So if you want to keep a wormhole, don't have your micro warp drive on it when you're jumping through. Okay, so we're in a system now. The first thing we're going to do is scan, and we're going to check our radar. We know what the system is here. All you can't claim JSpace. You can't do it. Not like nullsec. You can't claim it. So it's always going to say unclaimable. We're going to bookmark this as 1. And I'll explain this in a minute. 1 is always home. Yeah, we're going to double click away, micro warp drive, launch our probes, and cloak. Yeah, this gives us distance away from the hole. Hopefully people won't uncloak us that way. And you can see we've got a whole bunch of signatures in here that we need to scan. Yeah. Now, the easiest way I see of doing this is in Pathfinder. You can see that we've jumped through into this hole. It is a C3. I think we said C2 originally. You can see that that's the idea of the hole, and it's matching the system that we are in. So when you log into Pathfinder, make sure you are logged in on the character you're scanning with. Otherwise you might find that it's not mapping properly and something weird's going on. It's usually because you're not on the character you're logged into Pathfinder with. You can see here L is its static. Now every wormhole has a static. This means that this wormhole has a static of low sec. Let's get rid of all of this because we only want to concentrate on the signatures. Now what we're usually going to do here is we are going to click on all of the signatures, highlight them, Control C, and we are going to click on here and we are going to Control V. We're going to paste them. So now we have all of the signatures now in this hole. If you are working with someone else on scanning a hole, please post individual signatures that you are resolving. Like if you scan down a wormhole, post that individual. Don't ever do a Control C, Control V, because you'll overwrite someone else's ones that they've already done. So anyway, so this is a 1. The first thing we want to do is we want to find out what is the signature of this wormhole that we're on here. Now, to do that, we will put our square directly over where we are, and we're gonna scan at 0.5. So pretty much there. Doesn't have to be amazingly accurate. Or is it 0.5? Analyze, and this will resolve the signature of the wormhole that we are at. So we know now that the signature is AXA. So we'll edit that wormhole. We're going to say AXA, 1AXA space home. Yep. When you type the word home, that means all you need to do is jump through this hole and you are home. So don't put home if you are 2 or 3 jumps into a wormhole. Just leave it as 1, aka you could maybe put what system you're jumping back into if you want, but usually home means that's the final jump in the chain to get home. That's the best way to do it. So we submit that. We know that aka is home. Okay, so while we're cloaked and we're burning away from the hole anyway, we're pretty much safe here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start scanning down some other signatures. Now every signature spawns around a planet. This planet has 4 signatures spawned around it. Yep. You have multiple signatures, a couple of signatures around this planet. So if you have 4 signatures around a planet, the best thing for you to do is not scan one of the signatures at 8AU, scan the planet at 8AU, and that will resolve hopefully all 4 of those signatures into your red dots or your, whatever it is, a wormhole, whatever it is. So scan the planet and not the signatures, unless there's only one signature around the planet, then obviously scan the signature itself. So we're going to do a little bit of scanning here. Got our red dots, so we're going to move to 2AU. Remember, you can be a little bit more accurate by double clicking on the area or the anomaly or the signature that we want to scan down. So see, we're a little bit over here. The best thing to do would be actually double click on it, so it is in the center of our screen. We've got ourselves a wormhole. Okay, are we going to be lucky and scan the static on our first attempt? Probably not, but we'll see. So we are going to warp to this at maybe 10, 20. When you warp to it at 0, you're still going to be about 8 or 9k away, because you're warping to an area of the wormhole and not the wormhole itself. So we're warping like 20k away to make sure You know, we're staying away from the hole. We don't want to get decloaked by something jumping in. We're scanning at all times as well. Right, on this particular hole we can see is a U210. And I know for a fact that a U210 is a low sec, so I think we are pretty good here. In the meantime, we are going to bookmark that one that we were scanning while we was in warp. That is a relic site. We're just going to save that as relic at the front. Data, relic, or gas. That's what you want to put at the front, or combat, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we know that this is our low sec. We got lucky. So this is in fact the static, which is there. So we know this is the low sec. We'll go back into Eve. Now, the thing is, you can see here there's a various bits of information in this information here, but of course information. So we can see that that's the signature. We've put it as a low sec. Let's have a look to see if there's anything else we need to worry about. In the meantime, we are going to be scanning something else. Always make sure you're kind of multitasking. While the scanning's going on, you can be doing something else. So we'll scan this one. Now, if you look at this information that we've pulled up here on this particular wormhole, the wormhole leads into low sec space. Yep, not a problem. Okay, we know where it goes. The wormhole is reaching the end of its natural life. So this is time. It's running out of time. It's going to collapse at some point. The next thing on there, the wormhole was not yet has its ability significantly disrupted by ships passing through it. So again, this is mass. So you've got time, you've got mass. Mass is basically the amount of load, the amount of mass that has jumped through that hole. So if you want to roll a hole, you're going to have something in your rigs called a Higgs anchor, and you'll be going through with like a micro warp driver or an afterburner on to make yourself as big as possible, as heavy as possible, to make the wormhole unstable, and eventually it will go through its 3 stages and collapse. And also the other thing you've got there is the size of ships that can pass through. Now, when we're mapping this in Pathfinder, we will take large ships as the default. Any other size ships, we will put on Pathfinder what size of hole it is. So in Pathfinder, for this one in particular, this one information we've got up here, we will say it's a small hole. Only small ships can go through. Okay, so let's scan the rest of these holes. Okay, so we have finished scanning the entire site. What do we do now? We pull in our drone probes. Reason we pull in our probes is so no one can see them. We copy everything. We select everything, copy it, and now we are going to paste. There we go, bang, all updated. Wormholes, data sites, relic sites, and gas sites. One relic site rather. So it's all on there. What's the next step? Okay, let's go back to home. Yep, we've got AKA home. Now, on here we can say AKA, yep, we know it is a wormhole, and we know it goes to 4P. Can we remember the signature of the wormhole? I think it was K162. Let's double check. Let's quickly warp there at 20. We're still cloaked anyway. Now we're going to start mapping out these holes and these signatures on Pathfinder so that everyone else in the Corp can see what's available just by going into Pathfinder without even needing to jump into the hole. And I will explain very soon about the numbering and how we do that as well. So we know that was a K162, and it leads to nullsec. So you see there, K162 to nullsec. Now that hole is completely mapped to 4P. Okay, let's go to the next one, the low sec static. We're going to jump through these holes now, so we're warping to these signatures at 0. The low sec static is there, the MKM sig. We are going to jump through. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. I think maybe it's not clear. Okay, so when we warp to the bookmark we've created, we're going to be at 0. We know this is a U210. We don't know where it goes yet. We're going to jump through and find out. Oh, it's looking a bit wobbly. Is this an end of life? We'll check that in a minute. So we are in Birder Spot. Where's Birder Spot? Oh no, who's Birder Spot? Gonitsa. Why have I got Bird spot there as well? I don't know what I've done there with that mapping, but Gonditsa. Gonditsa is where we are. We are 21 jumps away from Jitter, so it's not even a great low sec, to be honest. Okay, so let's have a look at this real quick because it is wobbling a bit. I want to make sure I haven't missed end of life. Let's have a look. We're going to edit that location. We're going to put end of life on here, yeah, because it is a bit shaky, isn't it? So we should, in a couple of hours, we should have a new low sec hole spawn, and that will be another 210. Okay, so here we're going to double click on, just move over there a bit. We're going to double click on that. Oh, double click, and we're going to put 2 space in front of it. So we know that is the 2, and we know it's end of life as well. So end of life, and it's the 2. Make sure we don't see anything, we click back on there, and then we'll see everything there. So now we have that, and we can put there, that hole goes into the low sec we jumped into. Right, let's go next one. So just quickly to tell you here what I'm about the naming convention, right? If you want to say to someone, oh, there's a gas site in the C13, they have to go to Pathfinder and they have to go and say, oh, where's the C13? How do I get there? Down here, I could say there's a gas site in the 2432. That's how you speak when you're talking about someone's location. Then I would go here. Okay, I'm going to jump into the 2. Once I'm in the 2, I'm going to jump into the 4. Then I'm going to jump into 3. Then I'm going to jump into the 2. And that's where I needed to go to. That's the gas site, or that's where I wanted to go. So this is where the naming convention of numbering comes into play. When you've only got one hole that you've scanned, and you've scanned 3 or 4 holes in there, and that's it, that's all you're doing really, you can say, okay, well, it's going to be in the 2-3 or the 2-4 or the 2-2. Yeah, it's never going to be in the 2-1 because the 2-1 is actually the 2. Bit of a brain twister, but you can work out that 1 is always home. So if you are saying 2-1, what you're actually saying is go into the 2 and then go back into the wormhole you just came out of to get back into the 2. A bit confusing, but there you go. Anyway, so yeah, so that's how you do the naming convention when you've got multiple deep, you've got 3 level, 4 level deep holes. You'll be saying I'm going to go to the 2-3-2-4, or the one jump from Jitter is the 2-3-3-2. You know, it's that sort of thing. That's how it works. That's the reason we give the holes numbers. Because if we say, oh yeah, you have to go into the J153528 and then into the J150521, it just gets too confusing. So once we've mapped it all on here, we are good to go. We can say, yep, what do we want to put this in as? This was going to a C3, and it was a, let's have a look. This is the 1, by the way. We can always mark it as the 1 because we're going to jump back through here now. Anyway, so you go through and you map all of the sites exactly the same. Remember, if they're small holes, mark it on there. If they're extra large, mark it on there. If they're mediums, mark it on there. If they're large, don't worry about it. It's the default, right? End of life. Toggle the end of life switch so it goes pink. So we know that there's a risk if you jump through there, it might not be there when you come back. And we're going to completely map the rest of the sites this way. So now we are completely mapped and we're all done, finished. Not much else to say really. So this is what we're doing. This is how we map the wormholes. Any questions, just hit me up on Discord or ask me in game. Thanks very much for your time. Speak to you later. Bye.